Hello. This week's topic is local government. Please make sure you read Chapter 10 in the book before attempting to answer the written question. But I wanted to give you a little bit of background on this topic. So for most of the semester so far, we've been discussing state government, and now we're going to begin looking at local government. This is a class in state and local government. So in terms of this chapter, Chapter 10, local government is the level of government really that is closest to the people. There are essentially two types of local government. There is general purpose local government, which I'll get into in a minute, and then there also is single purpose government. General purpose government provides a range of services to people. It could be garbage pickup or police and fire protection or that sort of thing. It's the level of government that we're probably most familiar with because everybody lives in some form of jurisdiction that has local government, general purpose government. So in Michigan, it could be a city, it could be a county, it could be a township. Some people live in townships, and that's discussed also in the chapter. But I want to talk and then a specific, a single purpose government would be a level of government that provides a very specific service like the schools. So for example, typically schools are not administered by the city. They are actually administered by a separate school board that is elected within a school district. Now, oftentimes the school district runs along the lines of the city, but not always. So for example, if you live in Dearborn, there is the city of Dearborn local government, which has no jurisdiction over the schools, and that would be a general purpose government. And then there is the single purpose government or body known as the Dearborn School Board, which hires the superintendent of schools in Dearborn and is responsible for setting policies for the Dearborn Public Schools. And as it happens, the school district for Dearborn is all of the city of Dearborn and then part of the city of Dearborn Heights. So whereas the city of Dearborn's jurisdiction is just the city boundaries of Dearborn, the school board actually goes a little bit into Dearborn Heights. So again, please make sure you read through the differences between general purpose and single purpose and ask me by email or phone if you have any questions. But I did want to address the general purpose government a little bit. So as I mentioned, a general purpose government provides services. It could be police and fire, trash pickup, and regulates public safety at the local level. Oftentimes also water, and in some communities even other utilities might be provided by the local government. There are different kinds of local government. The one that I think most people are most familiar with would be city government or municipal government. In Michigan, we have cities, and as I mentioned, townships. Townships are kind of a unique thing here in the Midwest, and I don't want to get into that in this video, but please make sure you read through the description of that in the chapter. But in terms of municipalities or cities, there are different ways cities are governed. In some communities, you have a strong mayor who is the elected executive for the city, and then he or she works with a city council. And the city council is the elected legislative body for that community. That's how it works in both Dearborn and in Detroit. So if you are a Dearborn resident or you are a Detroit resident, you are living in a community that has a strong mayor who is elected by voters in that city, and then he or she would work with the city council, and those members are also elected by the voters of that city. Now, that is common in larger cities. Certainly Detroit is the largest city in the state, and Dearborn is one of the largest cities in the state. So it's typical for a larger city to have a strong mayor, and that is the full-time job. So the mayor of Detroit and the mayor of Dearborn, their full-time jobs are to run the city as executives. But that is subject to the legislative oversight and legislative lawmaking or ordinance making that takes place with the city council. So for example, the city council approves the budget for the city, and then it's up to the mayor to approve that budget and then implement it. So that is common in large urban areas. But some cities are smaller and don't have that form of government. There are some cities that have what's called a kind of a city commission form of government, where an elected body of commissioners actually runs the city. That sometimes happens in small cities. You can also have a weak mayor and city council or city commission form of government, where the mayor is really just a member of the city commission, and he or she has kind of a symbolic role as the leader of the city. But the mayor is really just a member of the city council and votes on bills along with the other city council or members or city commissioners, if that's what the city calls it. A city commission and a city council are the same thing. It just some cities choose to call their legislative body the council, and others call it the commission. It is very common when you have a weak mayor system to have a city manager who runs the city. The city manager is appointed by the city council or the city commission, and his or her job is to administer the city. It is a professional administrator. He or she is not elected by the city voters. That person, the city administrator or the city manager, again, cities use different titles for this official, but he or she is in charge of running the city on a day-to-day basis. And in cities that do that, the city council members and the mayor, because this would be in a weak mayor form of government, they have full-time jobs outside of the city government. So, for example, in a weak mayor situation where you have a city manager or city administrator running the city, the mayor works a full-time job during the day and then functions as the mayor when he or she is back home in the evening or on weekends. And typically in cities that have that arrangement, the city council will meet in the evening during the week, because it's very typical for the members of the city commission or council and the mayor to have outside full-time jobs. So that is not a form of government that a lot of people in Detroit or Dearborn would be familiar with, because our mayors here are full-time executives. But certainly in smaller cities, you're going to see much more likely to see a city commission or a city council that runs the city with a weak mayor who functions as a symbolic figurehead for the city. In some cities that have a weak mayor, the voters pick the mayor through the election process, and in other cities, the city council will designate one of their members to be the mayor. So those are some other examples, and more are discussed in the chapter. One last thing I wanted to mention is the issue of county government, so counties really are there to serve the state in a lot of ways. Counties are where our vital records are kept. So, for example, your birth certificate is registered with the county where you were born. When someone dies, their death certificate is also registered with the county where that person died. And other examples would be marriage licenses and other vital documents. So the county kind of serves that purpose. In larger counties like we have here in southeast Michigan, Wayne County, for example, we have an executive who runs the county. And he is elected, he or she is elected by the voters of the county. Macomb and Oakland counties here in the metro area also have elected executives. But in a lot of other smaller counties, you might have an elected person, a council or commission, which actually is the case in Wayne County, but the commissioners will appoint an administrator to kind of to be the professional administrator for the county. But in a large county like Wayne County, the executive is elected, and he or she is the person who runs the county along with the county commission. So, and one very last thing that I want to mention is that elections for city commission or city council and for county commission or county council, depending on where a person lives, those elections are sometimes by district, as the book discusses, where people living in a certain area elect a specific member of the council or commission. And in other communities, in other places, they are elected at large, where all the voters in that county or city will choose all of the commissioners or councilors who are serving on that body. I will say that in Detroit, if you live in Detroit, the city council members are elected by district in Detroit, with 2 of them actually elected at large by all the voters of the city. And then each city resident elects somebody in their ward or their district. Dearborn, the city council members are all elected at large, so they are not elected by district. So if you have any questions at all about these topics, please email me, and make sure you read about townships and other special districts that exist in communities, and other information on local government. And have a great week. Thank you.